Corey, how have you seen this defense get better over the last couple weeks?
Yeah, I think it's just we've definitely gotten a little better each week, and that's kind of one of those things we've kind of been trying to press into us, is just trying to constantly have that constant state of improvement. And I think it's really come down to just our coaches have really gone back to those fundamentals and making sure they were hitting on all the the little things that you don't really think would matter as much, the things that people outside looking in probably don't see as much, and I think that's really helping us out.
What kind of things are making the difference, or what kind of little fundamentals?
It's just little stuff. At a linebacker type position, it's just your stance, alignment, and your functional movement. And so it's the same with the D-line. They're getting back to their basic fundamental ideas. Each position group kind of has a group of 3 or 4 main fundamental things it needs to get done in order to play at a high level. And I think that's what we really focused in on. And I think it's helping out.
How much did the bye week help you guys with that? Because you were able to sort of go back to that stuff a little bit.
Yeah, it was nice, and it was a good way for us to kind of recoup and just really even implement a couple new things and just kind of work on what we need to work on. And yeah, it was good to get to work on those fundamentals again.
It seemed like the front seven right off the bat in that game was maybe a little more physical or attacking a little more. And watching on film, do you guys feel like you played a little bit better up front than maybe you had earlier in the season?
Yeah, I think so. Our D-line played great that whole game. I know they made it easy for a lot of guys, and the linebackers and the DBs. Our D-line was really getting off blocks and, obviously getting pressure on the quarterback. There were 5 sacks. And so, yeah, our D-line did a great job. And I think that was we were just really excited going into that game. Obviously getting ready for Utah State was a good opponent, and we were just really excited, and kind of coaches gotten us ready, telling us all week that this is going to be a physical battle and that we need to just do our best and be the most physical team.
Nevada presents a different challenge, and they got a quarterback that maybe one of their best running backs too. What do you remember from playing Fajardo last year, and what kind of troubles do they present?
He just always got that option where he can pull it. A lot of teams run that read zone now, where they're a lot of times just giving it to their back and letting him kind of read the offensive lineman. But then when you got a guy like him, yeah, he's got the capabilities to kind of stick it in there, and then he'll pull it out at the last second. And so we just got to make sure that we stick to our defensive rules and making sure that we're keeping our leverage so that we can stay home and be ready and waiting for him if he does end up pulling it.
Brian said after the game that the confidence as a unit has gone way up here in the last couple of weeks. Can you get a sense about that out there, or maybe in practice, that you guys are playing with a little more confidence on that side of the ball?
Yeah, and I think I think just as people are kind of growing into their positions and kind of understanding their role a little bit better in the defense, I think that's kind of leading to that and leading to people to play with a little bit more confidence. And obviously some of those older guys are really just kind of excelling at their positions, kind of starting to really figure that out. And so, obviously Brian's had picks in the last few games, so he's doing really well. And, their DBs are really stepping up, and everybody's just trying to kind of focus in on the little things.
How important were those 2 plays he made at the end of the half there after the crazy thing with the block punt? They go at him twice, and he's able to knock down passes.
Yeah, those were big. Those are the type of plays you got to make, especially if they're going to throw it at you twice in a row. We were all excited, and we're especially excited for him. And those were big plays for him. Those are, as a playmaker, making a big couple plays there.
I don't remember if you were on the field for those 2 plays or not, but how weird was that? Because you guys probably thought you were ready to go into halftime, and then you got coaches are like not even in the press box. They're coming down the stairs, and all of a sudden you guys are having to run out there and have 2 pretty big key stops.
Yeah, we weren't ready for it at all. We were ready for it when we got back on the field, but it wasn't something we were expecting. We kind of thought we were running into halftime. So, your mind kind of shifts over. But I think as a whole, I think we did a good job of making sure we got back out there and kind of locked back in. And obviously, Leno did a great job getting the push on the field goal and ended up getting his hand on it. So that was a big play for us as well.
Yeah, how big of a swing was that? If they score a touchdown there, or even if they get the field goal, it's a whole different game.
Yeah, we talk about how having the momentum going into half is kind of one of those big things that can help you out. And so, they blocked that field goal, and it kind of gives them a little bit of momentum. And so how it was just really big that we could go out there and get a couple of stops real quick, and then come up with that field goal block as well to limit them to not getting any points right before half. I think that really kept the momentum on our side and really gave us something to be proud and keep working for in the second half.
What was the attitude in the locker room like when you guys finally got in there? It sounded pretty loud.
At halftime? Yeah, we were just excited, and like you said, I think that does have a lot to do with it. That momentum going into half, getting that block, the last play before halftime was big. And so, we were just excited and ready to get back out there. Really, halftime seemed kind of like a little bit of a long stretch there because we were just kind of excited to get back out and get going again.
The Nevada offensive line has been pretty good here over the last 4 or 5 years. What do they do on that unit that's made them so effective, not only for the running back but for the quarterback?
I think they just do a good job of. They're just really an assignment sound offensive line. They're good at whatever they're doing. They're good at it, and each one of them kind of knows their job. I think that's what it comes down to a lot of times, is everybody knowing their job and locking into it. We have that whole knowledge leads to control here, or understanding leads to control, and I think a lot of them have been around for a while, obviously, and so they've kind of got that down. They know what they're doing, and I think that just helps a lot.
Obviously, they run that pistol read option. What you guys have faced that some in practice now with your own team, but what's the hardest thing about that type of offense to defend?
I think it's just like we were kind of talking about earlier with the fact that the quarterback can pull it. Just you got to be ready for everything, kind of, because you can be thinking, man, they're running a stretch play to the right, and then all of a sudden he can kind of pull it out and be swinging back around. It's a boot to the left or something like that. And so I think you just got to be ready for everything on every play and just kind of make sure that you're playing your job and keeping your leverage.
Talk about that phrase, understanding leads to control. How does that play into what you do?
So I think what makes the most sense is when you get here as a freshman, most people that come in here, everybody's an athlete that comes to play football here. And so you don't really know anything, though, about the defense. And so you're kind of just running around like a chicken with its head cut off kind of idea. You're kind of just running around trying to make plays, but you don't really know what you're doing. And so after maybe a year or two, you've got the same type of ideas kind of imprinted into you over and over again. And so then eventually your body is just so used to it that you're doing it without thinking about it. And so then when you have that understanding, you're able to control your body without thinking about it and kind of control your position. You're not having to think about keeping the right leverage. You're not having to think about, man, what do I do here? It's this technique. What do I do? You're so like locked into that, and so it just becomes natural. Is really what that means. Is once you have that understanding, everything becomes so natural that you're under control.
I think you guys had like 4 total sacks in the first 4 games, and you had 4 in each of the last 2 games. When the front four is getting pressure on the quarterback, how much not easier, but how different does that change things for you guys in the secondary?
Yeah, well, it sure is nice to be in coverage and then, kind of turn around to see the quarterback getting taken down or whatever. And I think it's good because obviously it's putting pressure on that quarterback and he's having to maybe move around. And when a quarterback gets some pressure on him early on, he'll kind of maybe have that in the back of his head. I'm not saying they all do, but sometimes that can help and it kind of get him to kind of get the ball out a little quicker or whatever. It might make him rush some releases and whatnot. And so, yeah, I think it helps a lot.
You guys are halfway through the season so far. Who's impressed you, teammates? Who's impressed you so far this season with what they've done?
I think there's a few. I think Bo Martin's obviously doing a good job lately. He had 2 sacks this last game. Ben Weaver's playing really good at the inside linebacker position. I think he's really stepping up and just really carrying that flag for our defense. And then you're talking about just defensively?
Anywhere on your team.
Obviously Shane's been playing really well. I think everybody as a whole. I think both sides are stepping up just as a group of 11 dudes. But yeah, I think there's obviously some guys that stand out, and Shane, Ben, Bo, obviously DeMarcus is playing really well. He had 2 block punts, 2 block field goals 2 games ago, which is huge. And so yeah, I think there's a few guys like that.
The offense had a couple of really long drives. As a defense, does that help you to get a blow like that during a game, or would you just as soon get back out there?
Yeah, no, I think it does. I think it helps you as much physically as it does kind of mentally to know that, when they get that long drive, usually there's points at the end of it. And so there's a little bit more of a gap you have and just kind of a little bit more assurance as you go back onto the field. Not saying that we're going to play any different because of a gap or anything, but just you have a little bit more confidence going on the field, and obviously you're a little bit more rested, which helps.
It seems like just yesterday you were, foregoing your redshirt year and playing as a true freshman. Now you're a true junior, and you talk about younger guys and older guys. Are you an older guy now?
Yeah, I would consider myself an older guy now, yeah. I mean, I've only got a year left in this program, so obviously it's gone really fast.
When do you think that changed for you, young guy to old guy?
I'd say after last year. I'm not saying I'm like an old guy, but I think it's just kind of when we were talking about the understanding leads to control, that's kind of when that kind of started to hit me a little bit more, is that it just really does come to you. You're not having to think about it as much. And so I think it's when you're able to pass on what you've learned to the younger guys that you kind of consider yourself a little bit older or whatever. And so I think that's what I've been able to do this year, has been able to help out some of the younger guys. And I think that's when you kind of start to consider yourself maybe an older guy.
In the context of the understanding leads to control, can you see that switch flip in a lot of guys?
Yeah, I think you notice it because that's when they really start to make plays, is when they're not having to think about anything. They're just out there playing football, because that's what you want to be able to do as a football player. You want to be out there just letting your natural instincts take over, which is what happens once you have that understanding of the defense. And so I think you do notice it. People start to make plays, whether it's more tackles or, if you're DB, you're getting those interceptions and stuff.
Has the switch already flipped for Ben Weaver?
I think obviously he's well on his way, and I mean he's definitely kind of an accelerated player he's only a redshirt freshman, and so yeah, I think we're all excited to see what he's going to do over the next few years. He's a smart guy, and we're just excited to see where he's going to take it.
Everybody talks about how complicated Boise State offense is. What about the defense? How complicated is it, and how hard is it for the offenses that you face to adjust to it?
Well, I think our coaches do a really good job of really simplifying it for us, at least. And so we try to put in a lot at the beginning of the year during our fall camp, and then they try to game plan and decide what we're going to use each week. And so they try to simplify it so that we can kind of have that understanding and make sure that we know what we got to do depending on what comes out and what we're facing each week. And so I think our coaches are really to thank, and what are behind us doing better on defense as of late is just they're doing a really good job of just game planning and making sure everything's simple enough for us to get in there and take care of it.
And that makes it easier for younger players like Ben Weaver to get that switch flip.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that it's something that would help younger players or not. I'm just saying they do that for all of us. Ben would have been able to do it no matter what if they'd given him, a million plays. I'm not saying it's going to determine whether or not if you're a younger player or an older player.
Guys, good?
Thanks, Corey.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.